IEM has been working with the Department of Health and Human Services for the past 8 years, and what we've been doing is helping them with modeling and simulation. We've been looking at what could possibly happen if there were a biological attack on the United States, and what kind of public health medical countermeasures could be provided to people. The paper that we published came out in June in Biosecurity and Bioterrorism. The title of the paper is Mass Prophylaxis Dispensing Concerns, Traffic and Public Access to Pods. What we were really interested in was when people come to these points of dispensing or pods, what's going to happen on the outside. A lot of papers have looked at what might happen inside in terms of how do we get the most people through the pods effectively and efficiently. Well, our concern was the same thing except on the outside of the pods. What happens when they come and they try to park or they try to walk to the pods and they run into bottlenecks, physical bottlenecks, and how can that complicate the problem? I mean, there's going to be a big effort. There's going to have to be signage to help people know where they're going. There's going to have to be traffic control points, police officers, other law enforcement to try and direct people where to go, where not to go, so that we can try to keep traffic moving and allow access to the pods in an efficient manner. In all of our modeling analyses, we found that the speed of the public health response is very important. Any delays are going to impact negatively on the outcome. So we've looked at the detection time for the biological attack, the decision time for mass prophylaxis, distributing antibiotics from the SNS to the state and locals, and then finally having the state and locals dispense antibiotics to the public. And like I said, any delays in any of those processes is going to have a negative effect. There's been a lot of planning around major cities because obviously there are concerns that those major cities are likely to be targets. But if there were to be an attack at a major city, we know that downstream, downwind, a lot of jurisdictions are going to be impacted, even down to small communities and suburbs. And so, a lot of jurisdictions are going to need to be planning against some kind of attack. In general, pods are what we call open pods or public pods, and these are open to the general public. And in general, these pods are any publicly owned building. And so for the most part, people have been planning on using schools, elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, because those are publicly owned and operated. But you can also take a look at what's called closed pods. And closed pods are where private industry might be opening a pod, but it's not open to the general public. It's open only to a small subsection. So for example, universities might have closed pods that only service their student, faculty, and related family members. And likewise, major industries might be doing the same thing. Well, there's different levels of analyses that we can do. The most initial one is really simple and only takes 2 to 3 minutes to run. But if you want to get more detailed, we can go all the way out to a micro simulation, and that's more complex, and that will take a couple days to do the analyses. But for a micro simulation, here you're physically talking about the building that you're interested in having the pod, the physical road layout, the physical layout of the parking structure. So here you're getting really into the fine details. So it's easy to start off with some of the initial analyses to find out where some of your physical bottlenecks might be, and then work your way up into saying, well, out of these 5, 6 different schools that we might have, this one might work the best, and then segue into doing a more detailed micro simulation for that location. I think it's a really big group. I mean, obviously, the most obvious people that are going to benefit from this are emergency planners, and usually that's at the county level, and they work with cities within their county. But like I said, there's a growing desire to have public-private relationships. So in addition to the counties, private industry. So again, whether you're university, large corporate buildings, and so on, even the federal government. I mean, obviously they employ quite a few number of people. So if they're trying to employ a closed pod, we can do a similar analysis for them. All they really need to supply us with is what their pod might look like, how many parking spaces might be available at the pod they're considering, and then an idea of the proportion of people that they expect to be either walking to the pod or driving to the pod. And then later on, as we get more and more complicated, you know, and they pick an actual location, then if they want to do a microsimulation, that's not covered in the paper, but a microsimulation would be the highest fidelity that we could help planners with.